The wrapping paper crinkled underfoot as I watched my son beam, handing out gift after gift. Laptops, jewelry, designer coats, each tagged with receipts that later showed $11,400 charged to my card without a word. When he mocked me as too cheap to give anything, my chest burned hot, my vision blurred, and my hands trembled around the untouched coffee cup. I sat silent, every laugh from the family slicing deeper than the last. But silence wasn't weakness. It was calculation. A week later, those boxes sat empty, accounts reversed, and his endless calls lit up my phone. Revenge had begun. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. I did not hear the first piece of tape. I felt it under my shoe. The wrapping paper crinkled and held for a breath, then slipped away. The living room was bright in a way that made everyone look alert. The camera light on my sister's phone blinked. Someone laughed at something small. The coffee on my saucer sent up a thin line of steam, and then stopped. Ryan stood near the tree like a host on a stage. His smile was easy and wide. The red bow in his hand flashed when he turned to the next person. He handed out gifts with quick, confident movements, as if he had done this 100 times. "Open it," he said to Aunt Rosa. "I got your size right this time." She peeled back gold paper and lifted a designer coat. The room made the sound people make when they see something expensive. "You should not have," she said. "I wanted to," he said. He moved to Uncle Ben and slid a sleek laptop box across the coffee table. "Top tier," he said. "Nothing less." Uncle Ben said, "You always go big, kid." Ryan nodded as if that was his duty. He looked happy to carry it. He wore a navy sweater that caught the light cleanly when he turned. Chloe stood behind him with her phone ready for every reveal. "Hold it up," she said. "Right there. Perfect." Paper stacks formed under the tree. Bows looked like bright little hats on the carpet. My chair was near the window. I picked it because I like a view. The street outside was quiet. The room was not. "Here," Ryan said to Grandma. "Try the bracelet." "It sparkles," she said. "It really does." "It should," he said. "You deserve it." He had a rhythm. Gift, praise, photo, next gift. Everyone moved to it like they had rehearsed. I watched his hands. He never fumbled. He never checked a price tag. He had the confidence of someone who believes money is a story that always ends in applause. "Where is Dad?" someone asked. "By the window," my sister said. "He is good." I lifted the cup and let it touch my lip, then set it back down. The coffee had cooled. I did not drink it. "Another one?" Ryan said. "For the couple who needs a push to take a real trip." He tossed a small envelope to my cousins. They opened it and found travel credits with a shiny logo. The room clapped. "You are killing it," Chloe said. "Keep going." He bowed a little. He had always liked a crowd. My eyes went to the white envelope that lay torn near my shoe. Something glinted in the torn flap. A sliver of receipt paper stuck there like a tongue. I reached down without standing and pulled it free. The letters at the bottom were small. They did not shout. They did not have to. I knew the curve of that brand mark. I knew the customer service number printed in gray. I knew the bank the way you know a road you drive every day. A second receipt slid loose from the same envelope. It had the same little gray number. The subtotal made my hand warm. My heart did not speed. It pressed down. "Dad?" Ryan said, his voice light. "You look serious. Are you emotional? Tell me you are emotional." "Let him be," Melanie said from the couch. "He is taking it in." "I am fine," I said. "Of course you are fine," Chloe said. "This is family. This is what it should feel like." She took another picture. I did not look at the lens. "Next," Ryan said, "for the woman who taught me taste." He gave my sister a labeled box with a designer's name in silver. She opened it and held a coat up against her body and laughed, as if the weight of it meant something about her. I did not move. I read the receipt again. The paper had a smell like ink and tape. The line at the bottom did not lie. My card company's name sat there in neat type, calm as a tide. The timestamp was from earlier that afternoon. The store location was across town where the parking lot is narrow and the lights are white and cold. I had not been there today. "Ryan went all out," Uncle Ben said. "He must be doing well." "He is generous," Melanie said. "He has a big heart." Chloe said, "He gets that from you, Michael." Everyone turned to check my face. I gave them nothing. I let my face be simple. Ryan lifted another lid, and there was a second laptop. He made a show of sliding his finger along the edge. The screen gave a soft click as if it liked him. He held it up to the room like a prize. "For the house that needs an upgrade," he said. The family cheered again. The sound ran over the carpet and up the walls. It did not touch me. I looked at the second receipt. The card digits were hidden except for the last 4. They belonged to a number I knew the way a tongue knows a tooth. I felt the old fear, thin and bitter. I set it down and touched the rim of my cup. It was already cool. "Dad," Ryan said, smiling, "did you bring anything today?" A cousin laughed. "Be nice," she said. He tilted his head like a boy who is being playful and knows his mother will protect him. He had learned that tilt long ago. "Too cheap to give anything," he said, just loud enough. A few people laughed as if the line were harmless. Someone said, "Stop." Someone else said, "He is joking." My fingers tightened around the cup. I said nothing. I let the sentence sit in the air between us until it settled on the carpet beside the paper. It did not break me. It put me in place. "Ryan," Melanie said in a sweet, warning tone. "Relax," he said, still smiling. "We are all fine." He turned back to the stack and took another box. He had the room again. The wrapping under my shoe bunched and then eased. I shifted my foot. My hands stopped shaking. The receipts lay on my knee, white and thin. The tiny gray number along the edge reminded me of a winter years ago when a luxury SUV sat in my driveway like a debt with doors. I remembered the letter that said my score had changed. I remembered the way I could not sleep. I remembered how I said nothing because I feared losing my son. I heard my name and looked up. Chloe was pointing the camera at me. "Smile," she said. "Just a little." I gave her the smallest one I had. It was a line, not a shape. Ryan handed a necklace to Grandma and told her she looked young. He did not know how to speak softly. He knew how to perform. "Dad," he said again, looking at me with bright eyes. "Say something." "Thank you for the nice evening," I said. He laughed. He is on the board of simple words. The room laughed again. It felt both near and far. I set the cup down and pressed my fingers flat on my knee until the tremor stopped. I picked up the receipts and slid them into my jacket pocket. I took out my phone and held it low so the camera would not catch the screen. The bank app icon sat in its square. I had moved it to the front screen long ago in a month when money had become a problem I had to look at every hour. I tapped the icon and let the face scan pass. The app opened to the home page. The balance glowed, not in red, but in numbers that told a story if you knew how to read them. I did. The last line said a total that hurt in a quiet way. It was a sandbag on the chest, not a knife. Chloe cheered for another reveal. My sister wiped a careful tear and held up her coat again. Uncle Ben tapped the laptop box with 2 fingers like it might answer. Ryan enjoyed each reaction like a chef enjoys the sound of a clean plate. "Dad," he said, "we have a group photo coming. Do not go hiding." "I will be here," I said. "You are always here," he said, and there was something sharp under the light tone. I looked at the app again. I slid to the card page. The last 4 digits matched the receipt. The list of charges stacked in neat lines. The merchant names looked expensive. The times lined up like footsteps across a day. A store near the river, another uptown, a boutique with a glass door that always swings too slowly. The coffee on the saucer went still. I could see a light in it from the tree. A small gold star shook in the reflection each time someone moved past it. "Michael," Melanie said from the couch, her voice lower now. "You are quiet." "I am watching," I said. "Watching what?" Ryan asked with a grin. I let my eyes rest on him for a second. He lifted his chin and enjoyed it. "The room," I said. He gave a small bow. "Then enjoy the show." I nodded. I could do that. I put the phone face down on my knee for a moment and let my fingers feel the edge of it. The case had a little crack on one corner from a fall in the kitchen last month. I had told myself I would fix it. I had not. I turned the phone back over and looked at the screen again. A cousin called for everyone to gather for a photo. People moved and laughed and stepped over paper. I stayed in my chair. Ryan said, "Dad, up," and waved me over like a stagehand. I stood and crossed the room and took my place on the end, where it is easier to crop a person out if you feel like it. The photo clicked. I went back to the chair. No one stopped me. "Next time," Chloe said, "we will get you in the middle." "It is fine," I said. The toddler from down the hall wandered in with sticky fingers and touched the side of the tree. Someone laughed and cleaned the little hand. The night moved on. Gifts were stacked near the door for people to carry out. Ryan kept the receipts for big items together, neat and safe, as if he understood they had their own power. I knew it better. My phone buzzed with a transaction alert. The number sat under the line like a new bruise. I muted the phone. I did not sigh. I did not shake my head. I let the alert become another line in a list that would need order. Chloe lifted the necklace again for a close shot. "Say something cute," she told Grandma. "I am out of practice," Grandma said, and everyone laughed. Ryan stepped back and scanned the room the way a man checks a scoreboard. He saw happiness and took it as proof he was right. He was not looking at me. That helped. I could work better when I was not the center. "Too cheap to give anything," he had said. The words did not change when I replayed them. They settled instead. They found their place next to the gray customer service number, the last 4 digits, and the timestamps. They were part of the same picture. I lifted my phone again. The banking app waited. There was a button on the bottom of the screen that could take me into a clean list of every move my money made today. I was aware of my hand. It did not shake now. It felt steady, in a way I had not felt in years. I tapped my card details, then stopped. The receipt in my palm did not match the story in the room. I put the coffee cup aside so I would not spill it. I let my thumb rest above the small blue words on the screen. The words promised a fuller picture. They would show me every path the money took, every corner, every shine of a storefront window in the cold. I let my breath slow until the air came in quiet and left the same way. My thumb hovered over View All Transactions. I held it there. I did not press yet. I pressed the button. The numbers spilled down my screen in neat gray lines, too clean to be real. Each one carried a time stamp, a merchant name, and a price that cut deeper than the last. A laptop at 10:14 a.m., jewelry at 11:02, a boutique coat just after noon, a watch at 1:47. The totals stacked, line after line, until they formed one heavy number at the bottom. 11,400. My balance sat beneath it, thin and worn. The air in the room behind me sounded far away, as if I had been lowered under water. Laughter still carried, but the cheer was muffled, blurry. My hands stayed steady. My breathing did not. I closed the app, slipped the phone into my palm, and stood. "Bathroom?" someone asked as I passed. I nodded once. No one stopped me. They were still caught in Ryan's parade. The guest room door clicked shut behind me. The quiet hit hard, like I had walked into another world. The only sound was my own breathing and the faint hum of the heating vent. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the phone again. I tapped the first charge. The details blinked up in black text. Location? Tech World, Uptown Plaza. 10:14 a.m. I had been at my desk then, sorting receipts from last month's bills. My body remembered the pen in my hand, the small ache in my wrist. Second charge, 11:02. Goldsmith Jewelers. I pictured the storefront, all glass and mirrors. I had not been near it in years. Third charge, 12:07. Belrose Boutique. Each one matched Ryan's errands that day. He had left the house early. When he came back, he carried no bags. Now I understood why. I scrolled faster, checking times against my memory. The line of charges was a map of his day, written with my money. The phone buzzed in my hand. A new alert, $1,249. Charge authorized. I froze. The alert did not wait. It disappeared into the stack, just another line in the ledger. I hit the number on the back of my card. A calm voice answered after 2 rings. "Customer support, this is Dana. Can I verify your name?" I gave it. "Thank you. I'll need to confirm your card digits." I read them. "Okay," she said, typing. "What seems to be the issue?" "There are charges," I said. My voice was low. "Today, a lot. I didn't make them." She asked for examples. I read the names. Tech World, Goldsmith, Belrose. She paused. I heard her nails on a keyboard. "Sir, these were not physical swipes. They were processed through a digital wallet." "A digital wallet?" "Yes," she said. "Apple Pay. The device ID on file isn't yours." I gripped the phone tighter. "What do you mean, not mine?" "The device ID that authorized these charges is not the one registered to your phone. Do you have a family member who might have added your card?" Her voice was careful, polite. My mouth felt dry. "What's the device ID?" "I can't disclose names," she said, "but I can tell you the last 2 digits of the phone number it belongs to." 42. The sound inside me stilled. Ryan's number ended in 42. I thanked her. I kept my tone steady. She asked if I wanted to lock the card immediately. I told her not yet. She sounded surprised, but she agreed. When the call ended, I sat in silence. The house outside still hummed with party noise. Here, only the heating vent breathed. My phone buzzed again. A message from Ryan lit the screen. "Dad, don't stress. Check your Apple Wallet. You probably forgot." A laughing emoji followed. I stared at it for a long time. He thought I would doubt myself. He thought I would believe I was old, forgetful, slipping, that I had added my card and forgotten, the same lie as always. Memory pulled me backward. It was 6 years ago. Winter. Snow piled high on the curb. An SUV sat in my driveway, black, polished, new, a lease I had not signed. Ryan had used my credit with his mother's help. The papers arrived a week later, heavy with numbers I had not agreed to carry. I had begged the dealer to take it back. They told me it was too late. My name was on the line. Ryan promised he would cover the payments. He missed the first within 3 months. My credit bled. Calls came late at night from lenders. I learned to live with a score too low to breathe. I had stayed quiet. I had told myself silence was the cost of keeping him close. I did not want to lose my son. That was the year I started keeping folders of receipts, notes, dates. That was the year I learned to write everything down. I blinked back to the present. The phone still glowed. Ryan's message still waited. I did not reply. Instead, I opened the list of transactions again. My eyes traced each line, merchant after merchant, until the charges blurred. Then I forced myself to slow, to read them one by one, to breathe. Another buzz. This time, Chloe. Don't worry, Michael, he's generous. You should be proud. Another photo followed. Ryan with the laptop in his hands, smiling wide. I locked the screen. I did not want to see more. I stood and walked back down the hallway. The family was still gathered in the living room, admiring their gifts. Ryan glanced at me and smirked, as if we shared a secret. He raised an eyebrow, waiting for me to react. I gave him nothing. I crossed the room, sat in my chair by the window, and lifted the cold coffee cup to my lips. I held it there, then set it back down without drinking. Everything okay? Melanie asked. Fine, I said. See? Ryan said. He's fine? He winked at me. I kept my face still. My hands rested on my knees. Inside my jacket pocket, the receipts pressed against my leg. Inside my phone, the charges waited, neat and undeniable. I unlocked the phone again, opened notes, and created a new file. At the top, I typed one word: pattern. I sat at my desk with the receipts spread out like playing cards, their white edges catching the lamp's glow. The word pattern blinked at the top of my notes app, almost demanding to be filled. I typed the first line. Tech World, 10:14 a.m. Laptop. Then the next, then another. Each one matched the hours. Ryan had been away from the house. The silence in the room felt sharp, like I had stepped out of one world into another. I pulled my jacket around me, closed the folder, and told myself paper alone was not enough. I needed more than numbers on a screen. I needed evidence no one could twist. The next morning I left early. I drove to Uptown Plaza with the receipts in a neat pile beside me. Tech World was busy, but I walked straight to the counter. I need a customer copy, I said, sliding the slip across. The manager tapped his keyboard and frowned. Apple Pay purchase, he said. No swipe. He printed a duplicate. The time and date matched perfectly. Goldsmith Jewelers was colder inside. I explained again. The clerk disappeared into the back, then returned with a printed sheet. A digital scrawl sat where my signature should have been. It was messy, careless, but legally binding. My chest tightened as I folded the paper. At Belrose Boutique, they gave me an order confirmation tied to my card ending in the same 4 digits. A boutique bag sat on the counter, ready for pickup. I left before anyone asked questions. By noon, the red folder on my passenger seat was thick. Each page inside whispered the same truth. My money, his trail. That evening, I spread everything across the dining table. Slips, receipts, confirmation pages. The pattern was too sharp to ignore. Every line carried his fingerprint, even if his name never appeared. My card, his phone, my debt, his applause. I stood back, staring down at the papers as if they were pieces of a puzzle I had solved. A puzzle that left no doubt who the thief was. I pushed the papers into order and turned to my desktop. The bank portal looked calmer on a big screen, but the numbers were no less cruel. I filtered for recurring transactions, something I rarely checked. One thin line repeated near the top. $1,150. Transfer. Memo. Rent. The date was always the first of the month. I stared at it, heart sinking. The recipient account belonged to Heart Living LLC. My throat tightened. Heart Living was Ryan's apartment complex. He had linked his rent to my card, and it had been flowing out silently for 3 months. I printed the page and circled each entry in red ink. 3 months of stolen rent money. I set the page beside the jewelry receipt, the boutique slip, and the laptop invoice. Each piece strengthened the story. I was the invisible wallet, and Ryan was the smiling owner. My phone buzzed on the desk. A message from Jenna lit the screen. "Hey, thought you might want this. Got a clip from the party. You looked like you wanted to vanish." I tapped the video. The room appeared, lit with warm bulbs. Ryan held the laptop like a prize. His grin was wide, smug. Then came his words. "Too cheap to give anything." The laughter followed. The camera shook as Jenna laughed softly, but the sound was clear. In the corner of the frame, my hand trembled around the untouched coffee cup. I froze, replaying it. Not once, twice, then a third time, each repeat cut sharper than the last. The insult was no longer just memory, it was evidence, a line that could not be denied. I saved the clip and exported a copy onto a backup drive. The file name appeared on my screen, cheapfatherparty.mp4. My chest burned reading it, but I kept it that way. The truth needed to be cold, untouched by pride. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the glow of the monitor. Rent siphoned, receipts stacked, insults recorded. The case was building itself with every step. Outside, the night pressed against the windows, but inside my house the table grew heavier with proof. I closed the drive, tucked it beside the folder, and wrote another line under pattern. Video evidence secured. The room was silent except for the hum of the heater. My phone buzzed again. Ryan's name this time. I didn't answer. I went to the closet where old files slept in dusty stacks. Boxes leaned on each other like tired men. I pulled one down, heavy with years I wanted to forget, and set it on the dining table beside the new receipts. The cardboard creaked as I opened it. Inside were the pages from 6 winters ago, the SUV lease that had bled me dry. The bold dealership letterhead still glared from the top corner. I flipped until I found the page with Ryan's signature scrawled in black. Above it, a neat line. Promise of financial responsibility. He had signed to take care of payments. Beneath, a note from me, written in my own hand, never again use my card without permission. I placed that page beside the Tech World receipt. The shape of betrayal had not changed. It had only grown more expensive. The memories rose sharp. Nights of waiting on hold, listening to soulless music while creditors told me my name meant nothing. My card declined at a grocery line. The shame of pretending I had forgotten my wallet. The way I stayed silent because I thought anger would break what little bond I still had with my son. My phone buzzed, pulling me back. Ryan's name glowed on the screen. I let it ring until it stopped. A minute later, it buzzed again. This time a message. "Dad, why so cold? You know I'll pay you back." The words stung, not because they promised repayment, but because of what they didn't contain. No apology. No shame. Just entitlement, framed as a favor I should accept. Another text arrived before I could put the phone down. "Don't make this bigger than it is. We're family." I stared at the lines, the casual arrogance. My jaw tightened. I took screenshots, careful to capture timestamps and his name at the top. I saved them into a new folder. Texts. The screen dimmed. My reflection looked back at me. For years, I had chosen quiet when my heart screamed. I thought that meant peace. But looking at Ryan's words, I saw the truth. Quiet had only given him more room to take. I slipped the phone into the folder with the lease copy, the receipts, and the video drive. Each new piece made the case heavier, stronger. The pile no longer looked like scattered papers. It looked like a weapon. By midnight, the red folder looked swollen, its edges pushing against the metal clasp. Receipts, bank statements, screenshots, the old SUV lease, even the party clip saved onto a drive. Everything sat inside, stacked like bricks in a wall. I arranged the papers across the table again, not in chaos this time, but in rows, each one connected to the next. I stood back and took a photo with my phone. Proof of proof. No one could call this paranoia. No one could call it confusion. It was all there. Clear, heavy, undeniable. The heater clicked off. The silence deepened. I pulled the chair closer and opened my notes app again. Beneath the word pattern, I typed new lines. Digital wallet confirmed. Receipts collected. Recurring rent siphon. Video evidence secured. Text messages logged. Lease history resurfaced. The list looked strong, stronger than I had ever felt in years. My phone buzzed on the table, the vibration rattling against the wood. A voicemail notification. I pressed play, and Ryan's voice poured into the quiet. "Dad, listen, don't go running to outsiders. Keep this in the family. We'll settle it. You don't want trouble? Trust me." The calm in his tone felt rehearsed, like he had spoken these lines before to someone else. But he was wrong. I wasn't the man I had been 6 years ago. I saved the voicemail and added it to the folder. The pile grew heavier. The clock read 12:43 a.m. My eyes burned, but I wasn't tired. I picked up the old lease copy again and laid it beside the new receipts. Past and present, side by side, 2 betrayals drawn with the same hand. My silence then had been weakness. My silence now was calculation. I opened notes one more time. At the bottom of the list, I typed, "Tomorrow I start building the case." The cursor blinked after the last word, steady as a heartbeat. I let my thumb hover above the save icon for a moment, then pressed it. The screen went dark. The house stayed quiet. But my resolve did not. The next morning my phone lit up before sunrise. 5 missed calls. All Ryan. I stared at the screen while the kettle hissed. I didn't answer. I poured coffee, sat at the table, and opened my folder again. The red edges were worn now from constant use, but inside it carried calm. Another call came. I let it ring. Then a message appeared. "Dad, why are you ignoring me? Just pick up." I sipped my coffee and said nothing to the empty room. The phone buzzed again. "You're making this worse. Stop acting like I stole something. I'll move money around and fix it." I took a screenshot and added it to my notes. The kettle ticked as it cooled. By mid-morning, Melanie called. My ex-wife's voice came smooth and soft, the way it always did when she wanted me to feel guilty. "Michael, he's your son. Families don't air things outside. You'll embarrass him if you push too far. Can't we just handle this privately?" I closed my eyes. "He used my card." She sighed. "He's young. He makes mistakes. You of all people should know what forgiveness means." I didn't argue. I let her words hang in the air until she filled the silence with another sigh. "You're impossible," she muttered, then hung up. The phone stayed heavy in my hand. I placed it down beside the folder. Evening came, and Ryan's number flashed again. Against my better judgment, I pressed accept. "Finally," he said, voice sharp. "Why are you being dramatic?" I stayed quiet. "You knew I'd pay you back. You always know. You make money, you barely spend it. It's not like you need it. His tone shifted, playful on the surface, but I heard the steel underneath. Look, Dad, don't push this into something ugly. If you expose me, you will regret it. The line hummed in the silence that followed. I wrote his words down on a slip of paper, exact, with the time. Then I ended the call without answering. The house was quiet again, but the folder on my table grew heavier still. The voicemail icon glowed on my phone, pulsing like a warning light. I tapped it, and Ryan's voice filled the quiet kitchen. Dad, what are you even doing? You think anyone's going to take your side? You don't want this fight. Drop it before you make a fool of yourself. His voice was calmer this time, smoother, like he had rehearsed it. But beneath the silk, there was steel. I saved the message, titled the file, and dropped it into the evidence folder. Another brick on the pile. Minutes later, a new text arrived from Chloe. Michael, you're tearing this family apart. Ryan has always been generous. Everyone sees it. Do you really want to ruin his reputation over some receipts? The words stung, not because they were true, but because they showed how quickly she had joined his chorus. I screenshotted them too. By noon, my phone buzzed again. This time a video call. Ryan's face filled the screen when I answered. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You think collecting papers makes you smart? Nobody cares. You're overreacting. You've always been cheap, Dad. Everyone knows it. He leaned closer to the camera, his voice dropping. If you keep going, I'll make sure Noah doesn't see you again. You want that? Your grandson looking at you like a stranger? The words hit harder than the money. For a second, I felt the same weight I had carried during the SUV years. The guilt, the silence, the fear of losing him completely. But I didn't speak. I let the silence stretch, long enough that Ryan grew restless. Fine, he snapped. Stay quiet. But don't think you're winning. You're nothing without me. Nothing. The call ended with a sharp click. I sat there, my chest heavy, my jaw tight. Then I opened the recording app I had started running before I answered. His entire threat was there, captured in clear sound. I saved it, labeled it, and slid the phone into the folder. Outside, children played in the street, their laughter drifting through the window. It sounded free, light. Inside, my house felt like a vault, every wall lined with proof. I wrote another line in my notes under pattern. Threats recorded. Custody leverage implied. My hand shook slightly as I typed, but it wasn't fear. It was anger, sharpened into focus. The kettle clicked back on in the kitchen. I poured a new cup of coffee, steam curling upward, and told myself this wasn't the first time he had tested me. It would be the last. That evening, the sky pressed low and gray outside my window. I kept the folder open on the table while I ate a cold dinner, each bite tasteless. The phone lit up again. Ryan. I let it buzz until the vibration rattled across the wood. Then silence. A minute later, Melanie called. I picked up this time. Michael, she said, voice wrapped in false calm. Ryan told me what you're doing. You need to stop. Do you want to drag your son into court? Into shame? He used my card, I said quietly. He's family, she countered. Do you know how this will look? A father suing his own child? People will laugh at you. They'll say you're bitter. They'll call you pathetic. I closed my eyes. He took more than money. She sighed, exasperated. Always so dramatic. You were never the easy one, Michael. You always wanted control. Maybe this is your fault. Maybe if you had been more generous. Enough, I said. My voice was steady. I won't let him keep stealing. For a moment, silence. Then she snapped, You'll regret this. Don't say I didn't warn you. The line went dead. I sat still, letting her words settle. Years ago, those same tones of disappointment would have bent me. Tonight, they only hardened me. The phone buzzed again. A text from Ryan. "Mom says you're being stubborn. You're lucky she cares enough to call. Me? I don't care anymore. Keep pushing, and you'll be alone." I took a screenshot and added it to the growing file. My desk was starting to look like a war table, covered in slips of paper, digital logs, and threats printed in black and white. For a long time, I sat staring at the pile. I thought about Noah's laugh, about the way Ryan held him like a trophy instead of a child. The threat to keep him from me wasn't just cruel, it was a weapon, swung carelessly. I opened my recording app again, checked the files. Ryan's voice, Melanie's manipulation, Chloe's messages, each one saved with timestamps, each one proof that silence had ended. I pressed the folder closed and rested my hand on the cover. My palm felt the weight of it, heavy but solid. The house hummed with the sound of the refrigerator motor, steady and low. It was the only sound besides my breathing. But in that quiet, something shifted. Fear no longer filled the silence. Resolve did. Night fell heavy, pressing, shadows against the window. The folder lay in front of me, its red cover lit by the lamp, as if it were alive with the voices trapped inside. I poured another coffee and stared at the steam curling upward. Each sip tasted bitter, but it kept me grounded. The phone buzzed again, a final attempt before midnight. Ryan's name filled the screen. I answered, letting his voice cut through the quiet. "You think you're smart, Dad?" His laugh was short, cold. "Running around, collecting papers like you're some detective. Nobody cares about your little files. All people will see is a bitter old man trying to drag down his own son." I didn't speak. "You're not strong enough for this," he went on. "You've never been. I can take everything from you if I want. Don't forget, Noah listens to me. He won't even remember you if I decide he shouldn't." The words hit like stones, but I kept my breath steady. "You hear me?" he pressed. "I hear you," I said, voice calm. He scoffed. "Then hear this. If you keep pushing, I'll bury you in lawyers and lies. You'll regret ever trying." I ended the call without replying further. I stared at the screen for a long time, watching the reflection of my own eyes in the black glass. Then I opened the recorder app. The entire threat was there, saved and complete. I slid it into the folder, another sharp edge among the rest. My notes page still sat open on the desk. I added the final line under pattern. Direct threats saved. Custody leverage threatened. The cursor blinked beside the words, steady as a drumbeat. For the first time in years, I felt my silence change shape. No longer weakness. Now it was a blade, sharp and waiting. I closed the folder and placed my hand flat on it. The weight of proof pressed back into my palm. The house around me was quiet, almost too quiet, but inside that silence was strength. Tomorrow I would not hide. Tomorrow this evidence would begin to move. I let the thought settle as I switched off the lamp. The room fell dark, except for the faint glow of the phone, still buzzing faintly with unanswered messages. I ignored them. The folder stayed on the table, waiting. The folder sat on the table like a heart that wouldn't stop beating. Every time I touched it, I felt stronger and smaller at once. Stronger because of the proof. Smaller because of what it meant. That my own son had turned me into prey. Morning light crept across the room as I buttoned my coat. Today wasn't about waiting. Today was about building. I drove downtown, the red folder on the seat beside me. The law office was quiet when I stepped inside, walls lined with shelves of neat blue volumes. The receptionist glanced at the folder and then at me, and her eyes softened. She guided me into a small office where a woman with sharp eyes and calm hands waited. "Alicia Grant," she said, shaking my hand. "Consumer fraud attorney. Tell me everything." I set the folder down and opened it. Receipts spilled like cards across her desk. She leaned forward, scanning them quickly, her pen scratching notes with speed. "Digital wallet misuse," she murmured. "Recurring unauthorized transfers. Threats recorded. You've already gathered more than most clients ever bring me." I nodded. "I've lived through this before." Her eyes flicked up. "The SUV." I swallowed. "Yes." She nodded once, like she understood more than I said. Then she drew a line of boxes across her notepad. "We'll follow these steps. 1. Dispute charges with the bank. 2. Sign an affidavit. 3. File a police report. 4. Prepare a civil claim in case he resists repayment. Keep your voice calm. Keep your documents exact. Let the paper speak." Her voice steadied me. For the first time in days, I felt air move freely in my lungs. When she finished, she handed the folder back, heavier now with her notes tucked inside. "You've already won half the fight by keeping records. Don't confront him. Don't argue. Just keep stacking." I left her office and walked into the cold air, the city humming around me. The folder pressed against my arm. It no longer felt like a burden. It felt like armor. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Ryan. "Still running around? This is embarrassing. Come talk to me like a man." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened notes and typed Alicia's steps into my list beneath pattern. 1. Bank dispute. 2. Affidavit. 3. Police report. 4. Civil claim. I underlined the last one with my finger on the screen. For the first time, I realized this wasn't about fear anymore. It was about preparation. The next stop was the bank. I walked through the glass doors with the red folder tucked under my arm. The lobby smelled faintly of polish and paper. A man in a navy suit greeted me at the counter, and soon I was seated across from him in a private cubicle. "My name's Thomas," he said, adjusting his glasses. "I understand you're disputing charges?" I opened the folder and laid the receipts out in careful order. Tech World, Goldsmith, Bellrose, rent siphons highlighted in red. His eyes widened slightly as he scanned the pages. "Digital wallet fraud," he murmured. "Do you recognize this device ID?" He pointed to the account log on my printout. I nodded once. "My son's." Thomas looked at me, then back at the page. "We'll need you to sign an affidavit. It declares these charges were unauthorized. That locks them for investigation. While the process unfolds, we can reverse pending transactions. You'll see them fall back into your account within days." He slid a form across the desk. The paper was crisp, the lines demanding clarity. My hand did not tremble as I signed. "Mr. Hayes," he said, "you've brought immaculate documentation. Most people arrive with half a story. You brought the whole case." I gathered the papers back into my folder. For years, silence had been my habit. Now, silence had turned into something sharper. Record-keeping, detail, evidence. Thomas cleared his throat. "One warning. If this was indeed your son, he may attempt to dispute your claim. Stay consistent. Keep every message, every receipt." "I already do," I said. When I left the bank, the winter air bit hard against my face. My balance wasn't fixed yet, but I felt lighter knowing the reversal had started. Back home, I spread the affidavit on the table and snapped a photo for my records. The words on the page looked stronger than any argument I could have made in person. My phone buzzed again. Ryan. A new text. "Running to lawyers? Running to banks? You're pathetic. Nobody respects a man who hides behind paperwork." I stared at the message, then placed my phone face down. For years, I had let those words cut deep. Not tonight. I picked up the pen again and wrote affidavit signed beneath my growing pattern list. The cursor blinked on the next line, waiting. I could almost hear Alicia's voice. Police report, next step. I closed the folder, locked the door, and sat with the silence. It no longer felt like weakness. It felt like preparation. The police station smelled of coffee and dust, its walls lined with faded posters about safety and scams. I carried the red folder like a shield as I approached the front desk. A young officer glanced at it, then motioned me toward an interview room. Detective Harris walked in a few minutes later. He was older, with tired eyes that scanned me quickly before dropping to the folder. "What brings you in?" I opened it and laid out the receipts, the bank affidavit, the screenshots of texts, the old SUV lease, even the video clip on a USB. He flipped through the papers slowly, pausing when Ryan's mocking insult from the party appeared in the video still. "You've kept everything," he said. "I had to," I replied. "This isn't the first time." His brow furrowed. "Your son?" "Yes." He leaned back, fingers steepled. "Mr. Hayes, this is fraud, plain and simple. With these documents, we can file a report. It won't be fast, but it will be solid. The threats you recorded, those add weight. It shows intent, not just carelessness." He slid a form across the table. "Statement of fraud victim. Fill it out, sign it, and attach these exhibits. We'll assign a case number." I took the pen. My hand stayed steady as I wrote the words. Each line felt like a wall built brick by brick. When I signed at the bottom, I felt the same weight lift that I had felt at the bank. Harris gathered the documents back into a neat stack. "Keep copies of everything. And remember, don't confront him directly. Let us handle the escalation. If he contacts you, save every word." "I already do," I said quietly. When I left the station, night had settled over the street. My breath curled white in the air as I walked back to my car. The folder was heavier again, now carrying an official police report stamped with a case number. At home, I placed it on the table, opened notes, and typed, "Police report filed." The words glowed like iron. The phone buzzed again. Ryan's voice in a voicemail, short and sharp. "Dad, I heard you've been running your mouth. You don't know what you're starting. If you drag this out, I swear you'll wish you hadn't." I saved the file without flinching. His threats no longer bent me. They strengthened the wall I was building. I closed the folder and sat back. The silence of the house was deep, but it no longer felt empty. It felt fortified. The next morning I woke before dawn. The folder sat waiting on the table, red against the pale light seeping through the curtains. I brewed coffee and set it beside the stack of papers, then opened the file one last time. Bank affidavit, police report, receipts, threat transcripts, screenshots. Each piece was sharper than any weapon I had ever carried. But I knew I couldn't fight this alone. Alicia had said it clearly. Find allies. Build strength where you can. I called an old friend, Daniel, who worked in IT security. He had helped me years ago when I was trying to rebuild my credit after the SUV disaster. He came by that afternoon, laptop under his arm. I spread the evidence across the table. He whistled low. "Your son left digital fingerprints everywhere." "Can you back it all up?" I asked. "More than that," he said. "We'll create a timeline. Each receipt, each message, lined up minute by minute. Juries like timelines, so do banks." For hours, we worked side by side. He mirrored my phone, pulling the threats and texts into a master folder. He labeled audio files, tagged them with timestamps, and secured them on an encrypted drive. By evening, the chaos had transformed into order. A clear, undeniable chain. Daniel looked at me, his tone softer now. "Michael, you've done the right thing. Don't doubt it. He's been leaning on you for years. This time you're standing tall." I nodded, though the weight of his words pressed deep. "Standing tall feels heavy." "That's because you're carrying the truth," he said simply. When he left, I sat alone again. The folder was still red, still thick. But now there was a second drive tucked inside, one that held everything in perfect sequence. My phone buzzed once more. A new message from Ryan. "You really think strangers will believe you over me? You're nothing but paper. I'm the one they trust." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened notes and added the last line under pattern. "Timeline secured. Allies found." The cursor blinked beneath it, waiting. I typed one more sentence, steady and deliberate. I did not raise my voice. I raised my file. I set the phone down and closed the folder. The silence in the room was deep, but this time it was no longer lonely. It was the silence before movement. Tomorrow the walls would start closing in, not on me, but on him. The first ripple came from Jenna. She had sent me the party clip days ago, but now she posted it in the family group chat. Ryan's laugh, his insult, my silence. The video played out in full. Only this time, there was no background of clapping and cheering to soften it. It was raw. Ugly. Within minutes, messages flooded in. A cousin wrote, "I didn't realize he used your card. That wasn't right." An uncle chimed in, "Michael looked humiliated. This isn't generosity, it's theft." I didn't reply. I let the thread unfold, each message stacking like a new layer of proof. For the first time, Ryan wasn't in control of the story. Later that afternoon, I stepped outside to collect the mail. A neighbor across the street waved, then crossed over. "Saw that video floating around," he said softly. "You don't deserve that. If you need witnesses, you've got them." His words struck deeper than he knew. For years, I had carried shame in silence, afraid people would side with Ryan's charm. Now, the silence was cracking, and truth was seeping out. When I closed the door behind me, my phone buzzed again. Ryan's text. "Delete that video now. Don't you dare let people twist this." I saved the message. I didn't delete anything. The folder grew heavier, but for the first time it also grew brighter. It wasn't just me anymore. People were watching. People were speaking. By the weekend, the video had spread beyond the family group chat. Jenna told me her friends had shared it, shocked by the way Ryan mocked me in front of everyone. I hadn't asked her to push it further, but the clip carried its own weight. At the grocery store, two women whispered near the produce aisle. One finally approached. "Mr. Hayes, that video. I'm sorry you went through that. People here know you. You've always been decent." Her kindness startled me more than Ryan's cruelty ever had. I thanked her quietly and moved on, but my chest felt lighter. Back home, more messages waited. An old co-worker. "Saw the clip? If you need a character reference, I'll write one." A distant cousin. "Ryan embarrassed you." I won't defend him again. I opened the folder and added these messages, printing them out to sit beside the receipts and threats. Proof was no longer locked inside numbers and paper. It was alive in voices, in neighbors, in the community. That night, Ryan called. His voice was sharper, frantic. "Do you realize what you've done? You're making me look like a villain? You think anyone's going to hire me if this spreads? Take it down or you'll regret it." I listened without speaking. When the line went quiet, I ended the call and saved the recording. I wrote a new line under pattern. Community saw. Support documented. The folder was becoming more than a defense. It was turning into a mirror Ryan couldn't control. Every insult, every theft, every threat, now reflected back at him. Sunday morning, I walked to the cafe down the street, folder tucked under my arm. The air was sharp with winter, the kind that wakes you fully. Inside, the chatter stopped for a beat when I entered. Then it resumed. Lower. Heavier. I felt eyes on me, but not with mockery. More like recognition. The barista slid my coffee across the counter. "It's on the house, Mr. Hayes." She leaned closer. "People have seen the clip. You didn't deserve that." Her voice carried warmth, but also a truth I hadn't expected. The story was no longer private. At a corner table, two men debated in low tones. "That's not generosity, that's fraud." "Yeah," and he laughed like it was funny. Their words cut through the cafe air and reached me without effort. I sat by the window, sipped slowly, and let their voices settle in. For years, Ryan had worn the mask of the charming son, the golden boy. But masks don't hold under light. When I left, a text buzzed my phone, from an unknown number. "I was at the party. I saw what Ryan did. If you need me to confirm, I will." I saved the message instantly, added the number to my file. Another witness, another piece of strength. That evening, Ryan's anger reached new heights. His call came laced with venom. "You're turning people against me. Do you want me hated? Do you want me ruined? Because that's where this is going." I didn't argue. Silence was my answer, and silence was enough. I pressed record before he hung up, capturing every desperate word. The folder grew heavier, but now it carried more than proof. It carried momentum. By midweek, the story had taken on a life of its own. Neighbors who once waved politely now stopped to talk. Some offered sympathy. Others offered memories of small things Ryan had done. Borrowing without paying back, flashing gifts that never seemed to come from his own wallet. Every account added weight to the pattern I had already built. One evening, I stepped onto the porch to find Mr. Larkin, the man who lived 2 houses down, waiting with folded arms. "Michael," he said, "I saw the clip. I also saw Ryan at the electronics store last month. He told the clerk his father was paying. I didn't think much of it then. Now I do." His words landed like another stone on the scale. I thanked him, wrote it down, and slid the note into my folder. Ryan must have felt the shift. That night his call came sharp, almost panicked. "Stop dragging my name through mud. You're poisoning people against me. Do you even realize what you're doing? You'll lose me. You'll lose everything." I let the silence stretch before answering. "I'm not saying anything, Ryan. They're just seeing the truth." He cursed, his voice cracking. Then the line went dead. I recorded the time, saved the call, and closed the folder. The weight of the community now leaned with me, not against me. For years, I had stood alone while Ryan's charm carried him. Not anymore. Beneath pattern, I typed one final note for the day. Public eyes opened. Narrative shifted. The cursor blinked, steady and patient. For the first time in years, I felt less like prey and more like someone who had allies. Quiet, watchful, undeniable. The walls were beginning to close in, and Ryan could feel it. The courthouse doors rose tall and cold in front of me. For weeks I had carried the folder like a secret. Now I carried it like a sword. Alicia met me at the steps, her black coat buttoned tight. She nodded once, no words wasted. We walked inside. The courtroom buzzed with low voices. Family members shifted in benches, their whispers like gnats in the air. Ryan sat at the defendant's table in a gray suit, his hair slicked back. He looked calm, almost smug. When his eyes met mine, he smirked, the same smirk he wore when he lifted the laptop at the party. The bailiff called order. The judge entered, robes flowing, gavel sharp. "We are here for preliminary hearing, Hayes versus Hayes. Allegations, financial fraud, unauthorized use of credit, digital wallet misuse." The clerk read out the case. "My name against my son's." The words echoed, heavy and surreal. Ryan leaned to his lawyer, whispering. His lawyer rose. Your Honor, this is a family dispute, not a crime. A misunderstanding at best. The judge's eyes flicked to Alicia. Counsel? Alicia stood smooth, calm. We will show evidence, Your Honor. This was not misunderstanding. This was theft. She gestured, and I rose slowly, folder in hand. The courtroom watched as I stepped forward. My knees didn't shake. My voice stayed low. Mr. Hayes, the judge said, you may present. I opened the folder and laid the first slip on the table before the clerk. Tech World purchase, 10:14 a.m. Not mine. Another slip. Goldsmith Jewelers, 11:02. Digital signature. Not mine. A third. Belrose Boutique, noon. Receipt, order confirmation, merchant log. Not mine. Ryan's lawyer objected. Your Honor, these are only papers. No direct proof my client... Alicia cut in. We have digital wallet logs. Device ID ending in 42. Belongs to Ryan Hayes. I placed the log on the table. The judge leaned forward. Ryan shifted in his seat. His smirk wavered. And further, Alicia said, we have recurring transfers. 3 months of rent paid from the plaintiff's account to Heart Living LLC, my client's son's residence. Gasps rippled across the benches. I watched faces turn, family whispers stiffen. The judge lifted the papers. We will recess briefly. Counsel, prepare digital evidence for review. The gavel struck. The sound was final, like a door locking. Ryan glared at me from across the room, his eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. He mouthed words only I could read. You'll regret this. I didn't reply. I only rested my hand on the folder. Calm, steady. The silence inside me was no longer fear. It was command. We came back from recess to a room that felt tighter. The judge adjusted her glasses and looked at Alicia. Call your first witness. Alicia rose. The bank's fraud investigator, Arjun Patel. A man in a gray suit took the stand and swore in. His voice was careful, steady. Mr. Patel, Alicia said, explain how a digital wallet charge is tied to a specific phone. He nodded. Each phone has a unique device token. When Apple Pay is used, the token signs the transaction. It is not the same as the card number. It is the phone's fingerprint. And the token used on my client's charges, Alicia asked, belongs to which phone? He looked at the printout. A phone ending in 42. The account holder is Ryan Hayes. A murmur moved through the benches. I kept my eyes forward. Arjun continued. As part of the dispute, we placed the card under observation for 24 hours. We did not lock it. We watched. At 9:12 a.m., the next day, a new attempt pinged. Same token, same phone. Location near a mall kiosk. Alicia pointed to the paper. Your Honor, this is the sting log. It shows fresh use after notice. That is important intent. Ryan's lawyer stood. Objection. The father could have told my client to use the card. Families share cards. Alicia turned a page. Then we will test that story. She held up a flash drive. Video from the party. The clerk set a small monitor on the evidence table. The screen lit up with Jenna's clip. Ryan stood with the laptop in his hands, bright lights on his face. His voice rang out in the courtroom, not warm at all. Too cheap to give anything. In the frame, my hand shook around the untouched coffee cup. The room in the video laughed. The courtroom did not. Alicia's voice stayed even. Is that love? Or is that contempt? The court can decide. Ryan shifted in his chair. His mouth tightened. Alicia held up another page. Recurring rent transfers. 3 months to Heart Living LLC. The recipient is Ryan Hayes. The sender is my client. Ryan's lawyer tried again. Still a misunderstanding. He believed he had permission. Then he should have a record of it. Alicia said. "A message that says so. A note. Anything." She let the silence stand. "There is none." The judge turned to Arjun. "To be clear, the device token cannot randomly attach to the plaintiff's card." "Correct," Arjun said. "It must be added. It must be used by that phone." "Thank you," the judge said. "You may step down." Alicia waited until he left the stand. Then she picked up a different file. The paper inside had old creases, the kind that come from years of being handled. "Your Honor, this is the prior agreement from 6 years ago. It is related to the SUV lease that harmed my client's credit. On this page, Ryan Hayes signed a promise." She slid the sheet to the clerk. "Please read the underlined sentence." The clerk read in a clear voice. "I will never use my father's card again. Signed, Ryan Hayes." A stillness fell over the room. I felt it settle in my chest like cool air. Ryan's lawyer stood fast. Context matters. He believed there was new permission. Families forgive, families move on. Alicia lifted a transcript. "Then why these messages? Your Honor, we submit texts and a voicemail. They are not apologies. They are threats." She read one line from the call, the words that had branded me. "If you expose me, you will regret it." The judge's pen tapped once on the bench. She looked at the old promise again. Her finger slid under the words and stopped. "Approach," she said. "Both counsel." They stepped forward. The judge lowered her voice. I could not hear her words. She laid the lease page flat and lifted her pen. The tip touched the sentence. The judge's pen tapped twice against the lease copy before she spoke. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her gaze falling directly on Ryan, "this document is clear. 6 years ago you promised never to use your father's card again, and now there is evidence of not only repeated use, but concealed use." Ryan shifted, his jaw tightening. His lawyer leaned down, whispering furiously, but Ryan shook him off. He stood abruptly. "It wasn't theft," his voice rang out across the courtroom. "My father never said no. He never stopped me. He just sat there, silent like always. Silence means permission. He knows it." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Sit down, Mr. Hayes." But Ryan wasn't finished. He jabbed a finger in my direction. "He's always been cheap, always. I had to cover for him, to keep the family from falling apart. Everyone knows he's bitter. That's what this is. His bitterness. He wants to ruin me." The benches stirred, whispers cutting sharp. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I placed my hand gently on the folder, letting Ryan's words echo. Alicia gave me a small nod, then turned to the judge. "Your Honor," she said calmly, "the defendant's own words just confirmed the pattern. He equates silence with permission. He admits to repeated use, and his threats show he knew it was wrong." She lifted another slip from the folder, a printed transcript of Ryan's voicemail. His voice played over the courtroom speakers, calm but cutting. "Keep this in the family. You don't want trouble. Trust me." The sound died into silence. For the first time, Ryan's smugness faltered. His lawyer pressed a hand to his arm, urging him back into his seat. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Hayes, threats do not constitute a defense. They constitute intent. This court cannot ignore them." I rose slowly, folder in hand, and stepped to the evidence table. My voice stayed low, but it carried. "Your Honor, I did not raise my voice when he mocked me. I did not raise it when he stole from me. And I will not raise it now, but I will raise my file." I laid the folder open. Receipts, affidavit, police report, witness statements, screenshots, video stills, a timeline, neat and undeniable. The judge studied the spread, her face unreadable. "This is more than sufficient for probable cause. The charges will stand. A full trial is warranted, and until then, the defendant is to refrain from contacting the plaintiff directly. Any violation will be grounds for immediate contempt. A gasp rippled through the benches. Chloe buried her face in her hands. Melanie stared at the floor. Ryan's fists clenched, his face red. "You think this ends here?" he hissed, too low for anyone but me to hear. "You've made me an enemy, Dad, and enemies don't forgive." I met his glare with steady silence. For the first time, I wasn't the one on trial. He was. The judge struck her gavel once, sharp and final. Court adjourned until trial. The sound was thunder in my ears. The gavel's echo still rang in the room when people began to rise from the benches. Papers rustled, voices whispered, shoes scraped against the polished floor. I stayed seated, hands resting on the open folder, steady. The judge's words had shifted the ground. Ryan was no longer the golden son in control of the story. He was the defendant, cornered by his own arrogance. Alicia leaned toward me. "You did well. You didn't need to speak much. The file spoke for you." I nodded, my eyes never leaving Ryan. He stood a few feet away, his lawyer whispering into his ear, but his gaze burned through me. There was no smile this time, only fury. As the bailiff called for order, Melanie approached me, her face pale. "Michael, please, don't take this further. He's your son. This will destroy him." I met her eyes. "He chose this." Her mouth opened, then closed again. She stepped back, defeated, as if she had seen for the first time the wall her son had built with his own hands. The clerk gathered the exhibits, sealing them in a case file. Every receipt, every signature, every text was now official court record. No more dismissals, no more whispers. The truth had been written into law. Ryan tried one last time, his voice loud enough for the family roused to hear. "He's lying. He wants me ruined. You'll all regret siding with him." But no one moved. No one spoke. His words hung hollow in the air. I stood, closed the folder, and tucked it under my arm. Walking past him, I didn't glance away. His eyes searched mine for weakness, for fear, for anything he could twist. He found none. Outside, the courthouse steps glistened in the thin winter sun. Alicia joined me. "From here, it's strategy. We'll prepare for trial, but know this. Today was the turning point. His mask cracked in public. Everyone saw." I drew a slow breath, the cold air filling me like water after thirst. For the first time in years, I wasn't defending myself in shadows. The silence I had carried was no longer a prison. It was a weapon, one that had been unsheathed at last. I pulled out my phone and opened the notes file, titled Pattern. Beneath the last entry, I typed, "Court recognized. Mask cracked. Silence commanded." The cursor blinked beneath the words. I saved the note and slipped the phone back into my pocket. At the bottom of the courthouse steps, Jenna waited. She gave me a small smile. "Everyone's talking, Michael." "They finally see who he is." I nodded. "Good. Let them see." Behind us, the courthouse doors slammed shut. Inside them, Ryan's voice still echoed in my ears, promising vengeance. But for the first time, I knew it didn't matter. His threats were paper. My proof was iron. I turned from the building, the folder pressed tight against my side. The fight was not over, but the battlefield had shifted. From now on, silence would not be surrender. Silence would be command. The courthouse verdict had not ended the storm. It had only opened the skies. Within days, whispers spread through every corner of our family, our street, and beyond. The once charming son, the golden boy who never failed to boast about his generosity, was now a defendant with court papers attached to his name. Neighbors avoided Ryan at the grocery store. Friends stopped answering his calls. Chloe deleted old posts that flaunted gifts he had given her. But screenshots already lived online. The community thread lit up with them. Those laptops weren't his. The jewelry wasn't his. He paid with his father's card. I stayed quiet. I did not defend him. I did not fuel him. My silence echoed louder than any statement. One evening, Jenna stopped by with a small box of pastries. "You should see what people are saying," she whispered, sliding her phone across the table. The feed showed Ryan arguing in comment sections, lashing out at anyone who dared call him a thief. Each reply only dug him deeper. "He's burning himself," Jenna said softly. I nodded. That's what happens when the mask slips. The phone buzzed on the table again. Ryan's name flashed. I let it ring until it stopped. Silence was my answer, and silence was enough. The fallout spread faster than even I expected. By midweek, Ryan's employer placed him on leave. The official reason was pending legal proceedings, but I knew the truth. No company wanted its name tied to fraud. Melanie called me that night, her voice frantic. "Michael, you have to stop this. He's losing everything. The family's tearing apart." I held the phone steady. He tore it apart himself. "You don't understand," she snapped. "He can't survive this kind of humiliation." I didn't reply. I had learned by now that silence was sharper than any argument. She filled the empty air with her own panic, then hung up in anger. The next morning I went out to collect the paper. Mr. Larkin, the neighbor who had once doubted me, walked across his lawn. He stopped, nodded at me, and said, "I always wondered how he afforded those things. Now we know." His words carried no malice, only certainty. That quiet acknowledgement weighed heavier than any insult Ryan had thrown at me. Later, Jenna texted another update. Ryan had tried to host a dinner with friends, but half of them didn't show. The ones who did left early after heated words. Someone had recorded him shouting, "My dad ruined me." The clip spread quickly. Each new piece I tucked into the folder, not out of need anymore, but out of habit. The evidence no longer defended me. It stood as a record of his own collapse. That evening, my phone rang again. Ryan's voice cracked when I let the voicemail play. "You win, Dad. Happy? I've got nothing. Nothing." I saved the file. I did not answer. By the weekend, Ryan's downfall had become impossible to ignore. The family that once praised him, in ever,